Hey, this is Marc Maron. You're watching Comedy Matters TV, and it does matter, right? Yeah, kind of. It matters. It matters.
So I'm here at the Hyatt Bar with Marc Maron. Finally, how are you, man?
I'm fine, Jeff. How are you?
I'm great. Absolutely great.
You know, a lot of people don't know that one of the, for the last 75 years in comedy, modern stand-up, one of the only consistent things is Jeffrey's hair. For the last, 50 years now, this hair has been in comedy rooms and, comedy events, festivals, and everybody always says the same thing. Who the fuck is that guy? And I tell you, it's an honor and a pleasure to speak to this hair and this head.
Thank you, Marc. And even at times when I wasn't there, my hair was still there.
The hair was always there, and when it wasn't, it was missed. Where's the hair?
My hair actually supported you through many years of your work.
Got dark, I'd see your hair, and I'd think, I'm okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. His hair's still holding up. Why can't I?
Now, which brings me to, look, I was there when you did your show at the Bleecker Street Theater. And please remind me, what was the name of that great show?
At the Westbeth, Jerusalem Syndrome.
No, the one after.
The one after that.
Where you talked about your...
Scorching the Earth. In the basement. Let's be clear, it was in the basement of the Bleecker Street Theater because Mike Birbiglia was in the big theater.
Exactly.
I was in the dungeon underneath the popularity. I was on the sub-level of popularity.
But that seemed to be the start of your rise to where you are now. And what always impressed me is that, some people let obstacles in their life overwhelm them. First, I have to congratulate you on all of your successes as of late, because you've been performing for many years and you're very open. If anything, you're so honest about what goes on in your life. And I heard that before you started WTF, that you were in a place of depression, that you were really bummed out about a lot of things.
I was heartbroken. I was broke. My career was in the toilet. I was, had suicidal ruminations. But as well as me, there's a big difference between ruminations and taking action. Yeah, your ruminations are somewhat comforting to the depressive. You know what I mean? Like, I could always do that. If everything, not yet.
It's a fallback. Yeah. You could always, and anybody could always kill yourself. You can only do it once. But
right. It's a spiritual reprieve of a faithless person. But, the heartbreak and that, it was definitely a transition, and everything was very overwhelming and very dark, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And out of that, without much planning or intention or expectation, I started the podcast, and that sort of evolved into something that turned a lot of things around for me.
Well, it blew up. I mean, it's the biggest podcast probably in the world, right?
Well, I would say that, as far as comedy podcasts go, it's probably the most, there are bigger numbers in podcasts, but I think it's the podcast of note.
Everybody mentions it, and you started it in your garage?
Yeah, well, I started it at the Air America studios after I was fired. They weren't smart enough to take away my security card, so we still had offices, and we had a security card. So me and my producer, we just basically started breaking in at night and using the studio. So the first 10 or 12 were that, and then I moved it to the garage.
But I'm always fascinated. What gave you the idea? Here you are. You're overwhelmed with things. Things aren't going the way you think they should. You're fired from Air America, and then what gives you the idea to do a podcast? Do you remember what came?
Sure. I mean, I've been doing this too long to really fall back on anything. When you really sort of think like, well, what do I do now? If I'm not going to do comedy, or if I'm not going to be part of this business, and there's not really much there after a certain point. Certainly, my pride would enable me to think on those terms. And then I knew other people were doing podcasts. I knew we had the facility to do it. My partner is a brilliant radio guy.
Who is that, by the way?
Well, he's he keeps out of the fray. Oh, okay. But at Air America, he had worked with me, and he was there at the beginning of the show. But he's just a great. And I said, well, let's try this. You can figure out how to put it out there, and I'll do my part, and let's see what we can do.
And then you just went to all your friends to come on the show, right? Because, I mean, I think that helps, too, that when you're respected by people in the business, that when you have an opportunity for them to come on, they come and support you.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, it was like I needed to talk to people on a personal level, and I also, it was great to talk to them and evolve the podcast with them. out of the, my respect for comedians and community of the comedians, and just, I learned how to be a fan again. I learned how to listen. I learned that my problems were not, unusual.
Not unique to just you, which is an interesting concept as well, because when you have the courage to talk about what's going on in your own life, which takes a lot of courage to expose yourself the way you do on stage. It's amazing.
I mean, I'm glad it's something relatively unique to me. But I mean, I think humans are equipped to handle most things.
I'm working on that. That's why I'm fascinated by it. I'm still doing material.
Yeah.
I have yet to start speaking about the inside things that are going on in my life.
Yeah.
I find that I honor that in you. I just think it's amazing that you're able to.
It's a risk, but ultimately it can only make you a stronger person on some level, because if it adds to personal transparency. I mean, if it's out there and you're not ashamed of it, then it can't ever be used against you by others or yourself.
It seems to work for everyone, but I'm afraid that the day that I do it, everyone will say, "Oh, really?"
Yeah, that's the day. Yeah, it's on the calendar. The Jeffrey Gurian shame day.
Exactly. Well, listen, I've been waiting for this interview for 2 years at least, so it's so good to see you, man. I'm glad we had a chance to catch up.
And I'm glad that you haven't changed at all.
I try. Not even my clothing.
No, it's great.
It's my brand. It's my brand. It's the comedy.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're not sleeping in your clothes, wear the same ones always.